Oh no. Oh no. Oh yes, it's only a discount for Winghelper software. Go to winghelper.com and quote Nick30 for a 30% discount. It went so bad I've even got the spelling wrong. Well, welcome back to the Ronnie Boy project. Now, there's a little bit of a story to this one, and I've got to tell it because it's all about my late father, and this is how we ended up with this particular glider. So, if you remember, a couple of months ago, Andy very kindly gave me this laser. While he was down helping me install it, he caught eye of this. And he said to me, he said, "Oh, original Alula." I went, "Yeah." But got sidetracked, wanted him to tell him the story about this particular Alula. Anyway, let's go back. 1976, started work as a dental technician apprentice. £13.75 a week. And I've been in the Air Cadets, mad keen to join the RAF as a pilot. They sacked me off. That's another story, which I will tell at some stage. Quite an interesting story, actually. Might even make a book out of it. So anyway, lovely chap round the corner, a guy called Dave Warwick. He's not alive either, bless him. And he taught me to fly something called a Cormorano, which is like about a 100-inch massive undercambered polyhedral wing. I've actually got the plans for it. If I can, I'll just drop them in while I'm making this sort of conversation. Anyway, so I saved up for an Amigo 2, and my dad insisted on building it, so he built it. I then saved up for the radio control, and I got one of the first set of 27 meg, the McGregor push-pull. Yeah, I know there'll be loads of you going, "Oh yeah, I had that, did push." Well, I didn't. I went up market. And so I used to go up to a lovely place called Whitnham Clumps in Oxfordshire. So if anybody lives in Oxfordshire and knows about Whitnham Clumps, oh my god, mid-70s, I lived up there. I used to ride over on my push bike. It would take me about 20 minutes, half an hour. Got pulled by the police a couple of times because I had my Amigo on my back. They told me it was unsafe, till my dad went storming down to the police station and I had a go at him. So we move on, and about 18 months later, 2 years later, my dad's given it the old, "Oh, why don't you get into power?" I think because he was interested in the engines. So we bought, my memory serves me right, I think we had an MFA Yamamoto, or we might have had a Yamamoto. We had a Yamamoto at some stage. Anyway, basic rudder and elevator, powered trainer. I got on brilliant with it. It was, it was pretty easy to convert over from gliders. But then that famous comment, "Let's have a go." Now, that was my dad. I'm right-handed, although when I was at school I was left-handed, got forced into being right-handed, and but my dad's left-handed. So I get it up nice and high, not too far away. I'd hand him the transmitter, and we'd go for about 15-20 seconds, and I'd be dad left, dad left, dad left, and then he'd just casually hand the transmitter back to me, and I'd manage to save it and get it back. Or more than not, what would happen is I'd be showing Dad, right, Dad, you need to come back, Dad, come back. And by this time, it's like 5 miles away, just like a doodle bug. And you'd always hear that classic, you'd see it hit the ground, and then there'd be that delayed as it hit the ground, and he'd do the classic, and come on, we've all done it. But so you'd hear the whack, and then he'd go, "Oh, I don't know what happened there." and then hand it back. So that's the first part of the story. I'm going to tell you the next bit, the funny. If there's more, I'm going to tell you while we're doing the computer work. So basically, the Ronnie Boy was a glider that I devised from this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the computer work of using Winghelper. And stay tuned because there is a fantastic promotion for Winghelper up till October the 1st. If you quote Nick30, that's Nick30, you'll get 30% off. Honestly, Andy will tell you, Andy Whitehead will tell you, Angel Wing Designs, this Winghelper has been a game changer for me. And if Alex, get to the chopper, Winghelper, carries on with his promise, and I think possibly might be next year, but he's got some stuff coming out which is like really exciting. So anyway, look, I'm going to go on. Basically what we're doing is I'm just going to show you a wing base like this, and it's going to look like this. So we're just going to open up Winghelper, and the first thing that's going to happen is we want to add new. And this is what you're presented with. So you'll see straight away, first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to add the name. Important, and Andy has taught me this trick, it's very important to make sure that you actually number and name everything, because believe me, it does get very, very confusing. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just calling it the Ronnie Boy, and then this is the base where your basic dimensions go. So I'm just going to add the basic dimensions. So I'm adding the span, or half span, because don't forget we're working in half a wing. So you can have it in inches or metric, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to alter the chord and the tip chord. Don't forget you can move this about with your mouse, and then the next thing we're going to I'm just going to alter that. So this is literally, as I said, I've just sort of basic figures from the Alula. This is what we did 20 odd years ago, but not using this. And so if you watch the sweep, as I add the sweep, then you'll notice that look at that tip there is slowly coming forward. Brilliant. My advice is I just muck about with this. It's one of those things. So here's the massive database you've got of foils. Now I'm a big fan of Peter Wick's, and what I've done is I have used his 1211 for this particular one. I've uploaded this myself, so Peter Wicks is not on here, but it's dead easy to add, and if anybody would like a video about that, you can either go to Alex's. Notice also that you can change the tip section, so you could have something completely different, but like I say, if you want a video I'll do it, but Alex covers this very well in the Winghelper videos. And also what we can do here is I'm actually just adding that to the bottom there, so that I want it all to be level at the bottom. So there's my basic ribs, and what we're going to do next is we will just, let me just show you something. So if I just save this here, hang on a minute, let me just save this here. There you go. I've gone back to the main page. That's how. So sometimes it's worthwhile, just if you're a little bit more arty than measuremental as I am, sometimes it's easier just to go back and look at it and go, yeah, does that look right? Now, so we've got these ribs, and what we're going to do now is I'm going to go to the second page, which is ribs, and when I click on here, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change the dimensions, because what we want to do is I want these to be in 2.5 millimeter, because that's the thickness of the bolster I'm going to generate them in the laser. Now at the moment I would recommend, and I don't know if it's something I'm doing wrong, but I have found if you want to do interstitial ribs, it's very difficult to do it if you've got even numbers. Now this might be something that I'm doing wrong, but I'm just typing in 15 there, and watch what happens with the wing when I click generate. So it's going to ask me, are you sure you want to do that, Nick? There you go. There's your 15 ribs. So that would be obviously 30 ribs on both sides, because we're only dealing with one half here. Now let me just show you. I'm putting the build tabs, clicking here to put the build tabs on the bottom. If I click on one of these ribs and then look at this, there's the build tab right there. If you want to, on this left hand corner here, this bit here I'm showing you, you can move those tabs around. So if you remember with the petrol, we had a bit of an issue with the I couldn't get the wing dowels to join because I got a build tab in the way, and that's something that I'd learned after a while. So you can alter any of these and go to any of the ribs to change the build tabs. You can change the width, you can change the dimension, all sorts of dimensions. Like I said before, I just muck around with this, just literally type in some different figures and just see what happens. And then so now we're going to go to the spars. This is where it gets sexy. So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to do the main spar, and you can name them. I'm not going to for the purposes of demonstration, but I would seriously remember about. So we're just going to add a spar, and whoa, look at that, that's absolutely massive, and we don't need that. So the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to change the dimensions on this particular spar, because that's way too big. I'd like to use a 6mm spar because that's what I bought from Angel Wing Designs. So that's I've knocked that down. So don't forget, this is the radius. So I've just knocked that down to the appropriate size to fit. And just bearing in mind that if you some of these bottom the dimensions at the bottom, you can actually alter the height of the spar in its position on the rib. I mean, just muck about with it and then just see where it goes. You can change all sorts of parameters and it will just go back to the original. So here, look, if I just click down there, you can see, oh, let me show you, let me just pan this in and show you. If you look at this, what happens to this spar now when I'm just affecting the on the cord, look, to the spars moving up and down. So if, say, you were doing a building and you wanted perhaps a receiver to fit in or a battery to run underneath, you can actually change the height of that spar, and you can do it at the tip. So if for any reason you can change that, so you can actually change the spar shape as well. So if you wanted a tapered spar, you could do that as well. But also we can, if you just go across here, sorry, I'm just flitting around there, right, so you can just move this spar up and down as well. So that's something worth remembering. But like I keep saying, I would literally just muck about with it and see what you get. So that's our spar. Quite happy with that position, that looks about right. It always comes out about 25%, and I think for this particular flying wing, I think that's a good place to be. So I'm going to add another spar. This time we're going to do the leading edge. Now if you remember, I had a bit of an issue with the leading edge on the petrol, and I didn't really concentrate enough on the effects of sheeting and that type of thing. But all we're going to do is I'm going to change this down and I'm going to bring it forward. I'm only going to use, a 2mm solid bit of carbon that I've got. So I'm just going to bring this forward. Now I've got to be honest with you, I'm going to stop this short at and I think I'd possibly go down. See, that's not quite gone through. I think if you went to 0.5 you'd go through on that, or you can change the dimensions just a little bit, but just for the purposes of this video I just wanted to show you how easy it is just to be able to move this stuff about. And so the final thing we're going to do, so that's our leading edge done. So the final thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on add a spar. This is our third spar. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way down here to half spar. Now I'm going to click on there, and then when I click enter, look, boom, there you go, there's your intermediate spars. So we've already generated the intermediate spars. Now at the moment not quite happy with the way they're sitting, because what I'd really like is a little bit of balsa that goes the other side of the spar. So all we've got to do is just change the using that parameter there, I can just change the depth of that rib. There you go, job done. Intermediate ribs. You can add some if you go down to the specialist sections down here. You can add more intermediate ribs, you can reduce the intermediate ribs, but I just, for the purposes of this video, I just wanted to show you what that's like with this. So that's our ribs all set up. So the very last thing is, don't forget also you can change the building tabs on the intermediate ribs. See that there's one there. So if for any reason I would just if you're building anything, just go through them to make sure there's not a clash with anything. But that's our intermediate ribs done. So that was the depth. This is the trailing edge. Now what I'm doing at the moment, it's a bit of a cheat. I'm coming forward 40 mil. So basically I'm making my own elevons at the moment. And if I was to remove this elevon as it is, what you'll notice is that it leaves the ribs short, which means I get the perfect, there you go, the perfect place to put a spar. Now for later builds, particularly my DLG wing that I'm discus launch DLG flying wing I'm going to do, I am seriously going to look at making a built up rib aileron, which we can do with this. So that's that done, quite happy with that. And then all we got to do now is look at this, click on sheeting. So I've clicked on sheeting, but I don't want to do this depth of sheeting, but it's very simple glider. So all I'm going to do is I am just, you can just see how you can change the parameters with this sheeting. So I'm just going to go to a simple sheet, leading edge sheet, like so. It's in 1.5 millimeter, and I'm just going to change the parameters to that there. Now bearing in mind, obviously I've got it on an intermediate rib, that's not going to work. This is just for the purposes of demonstration. So all you've then got to do is change the distance all the way down. And what I like is I like to just pan in and make sure that that leading edge sheet. So on the actual Ronnie Boy, I've actually got 2 ribs and then an intermediate rib. But for the purposes of this video, I just wanted to keep it nice and simple for you. So literally, if I change the parameter there, look, and go to rib 3, there you go. That would be the perfect rib to finish that sheeting on. So what you can then do is we then go out of here, and there you go. I've gone back to the main page. It gives you a fantastic picture of what it is you've actually constructed. And then I'll tell you what I am going to do, just for the purposes of this, I'm just going to go back, show you how quick you can just change the sheeting. I've gone back to 2, click OK, and then that's done. So don't forget, along this bottom here you can remove bits and pieces just to have a look at it, so you can have a good look round. So remember, Winghelper up till October the 1st, if you quote
Nick30, you will get a 30% discount on this fantastic software. So all I'm going to do now is, when I'm happy with this design, all we'll do is we're just going to go to the DX files. If you're interested in learning about making the bed for the ribs to sit on, which I'm just about to show you, and you're going to look at that and go, wow, that is mega clever. That's me just saving the files. So just post in the comments if you'd like that doing, and I'll gladly do you another quick video of how we made the build bed table. Anyway, let's crack on with the build. Right, welcome back to the laser department. I have uploaded the files, let me show you. Right, so we've uploaded the files for the Ronnie Boy ribs in K40 Whisperer. Now the things I have to check, so I've got, let me just show you quickly, because this is a good learning curve for me as well. I've got my balsa in, I've set the height with my little golden template that Andy gave me, set to 2.5mm, because that's 2.5mm balsa. I have the power set at 10, and we have good temperature for in the water. The water is going, and we have the air pump is going. I can hear it, you might, yeah, I can feel it. So and what we're going to push on here is, I am going to set this here. I must alter these so it comes up with these to save me setting it. I'm going to set this is the speed at 25. There you go. Now all we got to do, I've got to be honest with you, every time I want to push the vector cut, I'm just convinced it's all going to go boom. Right, so stop mucking about. So I'm going to push vector cut at 25, temperature, everything's on, height's right, the depth is good, let's go. So we're cutting. There's a pause, and we're off. I'll quickly show you this. I know it's naughty, but let me show you this. Right, so we've got our set of ribs cutting. So what we've got to do is, not only are we going to cut the ribs, obviously we've got to put the lettering down. Now at the moment, a little bit lazy, I've only put the lettering as R1 to 9. So what I should do is do an R and an L. So that's just something, laziness on my part. And I think when I'm doing more prototyping, I need to do it properly. So that's just cutting away, and I'll get back to you when it's finished. So this is the template that I've made. I've cut out of 9mm B&Q there. I'm going to call it Depron foam because I can't be bothered calling it insulating foam all the time. So that's pinned down. And now I'm going to knock out a set of ribs for the Ronnie Boy, and I'm going to put them all together. And I've got myself some carbon spars that I bought from Angel Wing Designs, and let's crack on with the build of the Ronnie Boy. Right, update, I have had to halt the build. Don't panic, I'm alright. This template I made, cracking, but it's 9mm, and what I was noticing when I was just popping the ribs out, let me just show you, not so bad on this one, but as I was just test fitting it, some of the ribs are touching the template. So and when I'm checking some of the tabs are under 9mm. So that's a good spot of mine. So I am just going to cut another one of these. I'm just firing up my computer. I've got another sheet. I'm going to use the 3mm, the thinner stuff. It's a shame that, because I quite like the way that this pinched
the tabs to hold them in place and kept them nice and square. So what I need to remember is possibly the height of the tabs needs to be adjusted in Winghelper if I wanted to use this again. So this will be up for sale. I will sign this limited edition. Right, let's go and make a new I don't know what you call that. What's that? Rib template? Is it a rib template? Build template? Anyway, come on, let's get this built. Right, there you go. New template for the Ronnie Boy. Yeah, so you can see the difference now, particularly with it was the R3 that I noticed the big difference. But that's showing through now, so that when it's sitting up, there's going to be a gap underneath it. So it's all part of the journey. So I am going to pin this down, and let me tell you the next part of the story. Wow, look at that, there she is. I had literally put the number 1 on. I've not had to sand or adjust the hole for the ribs. That has just slid straight on there. I am bloody well chuffed for that. Now, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to sit that on there, and I'm going to sit that on there like that, and then I am just going to apply a little bit of weight. That template, I mean, this is Andy Whitehead's suggestion. It's superb. Let's get that on there. Everything's sitting down. Just check it. Right, anyway, part 2 of the Ronnie Boy. So I'm just going to tell you this while I'm zapping these quickly with thin sino just to grip them in place. So obviously I think we both decided that you know, my dad learning to fly, and particularly me teaching him, was never going to work. He was into his racing cycling and playing squash, and then obviously for me, ladies came along, and so if we fast forward to the 20s, I can't even remember the date, but I was massively into F3K, big time. I had just started, luckily my next door neighbour was into it as well, because him and the 2 brothers, the Green brothers, they were into flying F3K as well. And so I'm over the backfield flying my very expensive F3K models, and then lo and behold, Ron comes over with that famous statement, "Can I have a go?" And I'm like, mate, not being funny, these were £500 a pop in them days. So, but I showed him the little Alula, and he got all excited. So the great thing was, it meant that the Alula I could literally just chuck up. I could get it flying, get it trimmed, and then I could hand the transmitter to him. And you know, that poor Alula, that first day, that took a little bit of bashing, but it ignited something with him, because we, instead of obviously, you know, going home and applying the old powered Yamamoto, that I think we ended up, it must have weighed about an extra 200 grams of the epoxy on it. Anyway, we couldn't get hold of another Alula. I think I'd had it a while, and so I said to him, "There, don't worry, Dad, I'll cut your foam one." So I had a load of packing foam kicking around. With my next door neighbour's help, Laurie Green, I just made a foam bow, fiberglass fishing rod type thing with the wire, and a car charger, and we cut these. I can't even remember what the wing section. I think I might even have the wing section going somewhere. I might have even pinked it off the skewer. But yeah, that's what we did. I actually ended up making 2. So he would come over, and of course it's great practice for me. So I wouldn't discus launch it, we were tip launch it like this, like you would do the Alula. And so I just fire it up, and I covered it in combat tape. It was just plain white foam covered in combat tape, and then just that blue and red, as you'll see, which I'll show you the picture. And so we did that, and then we had two. So we went to Whitnam Clumps, we went to Whitehorse Hill at Uffington, because I then was now living in Swindon, so it's like an hour's drive for him, but he'd come over. And then so that's the next bit. It was fraught with me doing this occasionally when I'd say, Dad, up, and then all of a sudden it turned into a doodle bug. People who don't know what a doodle bug is, you need to check that one out. But anyway, so that was the next step. That's how we ended up with the Ronnie Boy. So it was just literally the dimensions of the Alula, came up with my own wings. I think our wing section was a lot fatter than the Alula. I think because it was normal packing foam, we needed something thicker. We couldn't get that thin edge, but I'll tell you what, that was a sweet little glider. It flew really well. So here you go, first wing done, and I am just gonna leave that on. That's just tacked. I think I might have a little bit of a dabble, so I've just tacked those with thin Sino. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to sort myself out a leading edge for these, little bit of carbon, and then we've got to talk about doing the trailing edge, which I think I'll do once I've got the leading edge off. Now also you'll know that from when we did the little brief chat about the we've got some sheeting here, so I'm going to leave this sheeting at the moment. The reason being is we've got to have a serious discussion about what we're going to do for the fuselage, and I've come up with a cracking little battery which, as it happens, appears to fit all my Angel Wing design gliders, and so I'll show you about that. So I'm thinking that I'm going to build the fuzz all around this battery that I've got, because this might be my new go-to battery for a lot of the smaller stuff, the sub 250 type stuff. So anyway, I've waffled on enough. I'm just going to get this all sorted. I might do the other side as well, then I'll come back to you. But I will, if I stick the leading edge on or do anything, I'll come straight back to you, because we've got part 3 of the story to go to. Right, not gonna lie, I had absolutely no idea how I was gonna do the leading edge, because I hadn't even thought about the carbon. I've got this kicking around. It's a little bit over duty, I think, in all honesty, but this one is coming out as a 2mm carbon tube. I'll have to speak to Andy about, he's the man that knows what's best. But anyway, look, what we got to do now is we have got to I'm just going to take that off, and then I'm so pleased with this build table thing. It's let me just get that off of there. I did spill some Sino on one of these. Oh, look, come on. Look at that, and it's all sitting down. Hee hee hee. I mean, that's mega already. So, oh, hang on, bit of Sino. Right, I need to go down, have a cup of tea and calm down. I'm just going to put this in, because what I did was I tacked everything with thin Sino, and I've put some medium Sino, not on the leading edges but around the where the ribs are going. Some of that is still obviously still going off, and I'm going to leave that just a little while. Wow, that's gone really well on those. Remember the last time when I did the petrol, I had to hand do those. Well, obviously learnt the lesson on that one. Yeah, boy. Right, so I'm just going to do this. I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I just need to have a think about the trailing edge. I literally cannot believe how quickly that's gone together. I reckon if I wasn't filming, you could smash one of these out in a day, easy. Half a day, 2 hours. So let's just let that bed right in. I'll put my rulers on it, and then sorry, I'm guffing on. I know. I get well excited, but anyway, I'm just going to leave that all to sit there for a moment. Okay, so while I was doing the second wing, because there's the first wing I smashed out in about 10 minutes, I'm doing the left wing. I was thinking about the trailing edge before we do the elevons. Then I remembered that the scrap balsa, you know what I'm like, the scrap balsa from that last plane I built, the Lancer, there was like a bit there for the fuselage sides and everything, and then voila, I'd got 2 strips of this either side. So I have just mounted that to the trailing edge of the left side. Let me show. I'll tell you what, I've had a complete brainwave over this, and if I was going to be producing any more, if Andy decides he wants to produce some more, it's a simple little fix, because look, all I've done is I've added that to the back. I just got 3, held it in place with a few pins, but the pins I went in an angle like that. Now all I've got to do is, if I remember, if I add about another 10 mil, let's have a little look here. So we've got to remember, if we add 10 mil to the back of this build board, then we can use it, because actually the other bit of trailing edge that goes in there, we can just come up with something that actually holds it in place, like some spacers. So when you've made the wing, you've then got a couple of spacers you can put here, here and here, and that would give you all the same height. I tell you what, if I tell that to Andy Whitehead, he's going to pass out. Right, I'm going to do exactly the same now. So I've just literally sinoed in place, thin sino. I'm going to gently take it off, and then I'm going to put a little bit of medium sino just here on the side edges. I'm using a bit more sino on this build purely because I've got a bit behind, and I've got this massive DLG project I want to show you, so I want to get this done ASAP. Right, I'm going to do the other one, and then we'll come back and talk about joining the wings and what we're going to do next. And there you go, very quickly I have smashed out a wing for the Ronnie Boy. And just remember, this wing was all done by using Winghelper.com. Just remember, 30% discount if you quote Nick30 till October the 1st. You can even try it for 7 days for free. But game changer for me. Thank you to Alex, and thank you to Andy for teaching me and giving me the laser. Right guys, I'm going to call it a day for this episode. I think it's going to end up being a bit like the June Freak, and I know you guys quite like that. I could spend, I don't want to do a video, it's about 2 hours long and me whittling on. We need to start thinking about what we're going to do with the fuselage and how we're going to mount the 3 together. So there's a little bit of me thinking, shall I join this together now, and then we'll do the fuselage. What I think I'm going to do is I need to just have a think about what it is I'm going to do next with this, because what I don't want to do is just go, oh, do this, do that, do that. I've got some basic ideas for a fuselage, and what I'd really like to do is I'd like you to come with me on me doing that fuselage bit as well. I found myself a cracking little battery, which actually, thinking about it, I'd like to build the fuzz around the dimensions of that battery. We're only using 2 servos. So if you've liked this, please like and subscribe. If you've got any advice, mate, guys and girls, just have a thrash on the keyboard, but I think that's the best thing to do. I'll see you very shortly for part 2 of the Ronnie Boy.